Hello guys, today's video is going to be about beans, not just any beans, pinto beans I have here, but I'm going to do 2 cups. I don't want to make a lot. Here's a little history with me and beans. In case you haven't watched the video about me, I mentioned that we were in a refugee camp. I'm not from here, so in there they used to give us beans, and it used to be the black-eyed beans, and just eating the black-eyed beans and rice every day is not fun. That beans was the hardest beans to cook. It used to take forever to cook, so usually when I look at beans I'm like, oh, I don't want to. But anyways, being Rwandan, part Rwandan, we love beans, and we always have beans in the house, in the fridge somewhere. So here it is. And one of the things that I remember doing as a child on a Saturday morning is sorting out and cleaning beans. Even though it says in the bag that it's cleaned or triple cleaned, I usually have to clean it, sort it out, which means I'll just pour it down on the counter or any flat space, and I'm taking out all the cut ones, rocks or whatever, and just putting the whole one. And after when I'm done sorting it out, I'll clean it, rinse it with water, usually like 3 or 4 times, or until you see that it's cleaned. And then I usually use my crock pot to cook it. It usually takes 2.5 to 3 hours, and I usually do it in the morning. I just wake up, put that in a crock pot while I'm doing other things, and I'll show you later on when it's done how I'll fry it and season it. That way I don't have that bad memories of beans every time I eat beans. As you can see, I don't have that much beans, and it doesn't look dirty, but when you see the water, then you see the difference. I still see some of these I'm taking out, some of them that I miss, the broken ones. I don't like broken ones. It burns the beans. That's the only reason I take them out. I'm saying it burns the beans, not in a crock pot, but when you're cooking these beans on a stove top in a pot, it burns the beans at the bottom. Adding my beans into the crock pot, putting water high, and here it is going so far. After that, I take out the beans. I put a saucepan on a stove. While I'm doing that, I'm gonna get some rice going because I do more than one thing at the same time. And I'm going to fry the rice. Usually with the rice, I do the rice in a rice cooker, but if I want to make some special rice, then I'll fry it. Just oil, I'm doing both of them at the same time, oil in each. For the white one, I'm going to do rice for the skillet, and I am doing the beans in the pan. So as you can see, I already chop out my onions, my shallots, my garlic, and bell peppers that I'm going to use. Just simple stuff that I usually use with this beans, and I'll just saute or fry the spices, the onions and whatnot, until they become brown. And for the rice, I'm not gonna use a lot of stuff. I'm just doing the onions and the green beans, and I'll just put salt and the seasoning, and that's the salt seasoning. But the one I'm putting right now is just all the ingredient that I have. The tomato, I blend it. The tomato, garlic, onions are blended, and I usually put it in the freezer for me to use anytime I want to use. I'm adding some salt, and that is ready for the rice. I'm gonna add some rice in a little bit. As far as the beans, it's just going. I added the mixture of the blended, and I'm also adding some tomato paste for the beans. I like tomato paste, and it looks like that because it's frozen. I usually, when I open the can, I don't leave it in a can. I put it in a plastic bag and I put it in the freezer, and I'm just adding some salt seasoning, and some black pepper for my beans. I'll let it cook. And here's the rice. I'm adding the rice, and I'll add some water after adding the rice, and I'll just put it on low so I can cook it, and I'll cover it with aluminum foil after it's boiled enough when the water dries out. Here's my beans. I just add the beans after I cook them, and I like to have a little bit of water so I can have some soup. But after I cook it for a little bit, you'll see that the soup or the water will dry. So you have that thick consistency. I add all this stuff, the blended mixtures and the tomato paste will become thick. And I'll just cover it on medium so it can cook. And this is my rice and my beans going at the same time. There goes the aluminum foil. And I'll reduce the heat for that one. It's on 3. And for the beans is going, and I'll reduce it onto low right now because it's pretty much done, but I want that soup to be reduced. There's my beans. If you want, you can add some salt or you can taste and see, but it's all ready. And for this one, just rice and beans, and I'm going to put some meat that I cooked last night, some beef. And don't worry, I